Rachel, I didn't realize you dressed up. Uh, you knew it was. You knew it was. Well, you knew it was coming because, anyway. That's exactly right. We have Senior Pastor Lori Walke with us today of Mayflower Congregational United Church of Christ. This is her second year to be here. I didn't get to introduce her last year because I was coming back from a doctor's appointment and was late and caught a lot of heck over it. So paybacks are now. Lori's a Moore High School graduate. She played basketball for the Cowgirls from 2002 to 2005. She had a poli-sci undergrad, a master's in health care administration from Oklahoma State. She wasn't done. OCU law degree 2009, and then a master's of divinity at Phillips in 2011. The thing I can't get over is the moniker she goes by is the Velvet Hammer. And I would hate to see the sledgehammer version of her. The good news is for you guys is she did bring a stack of Bibles for that Ryan Walters has endorsed, and she is going to sign them afterwards for anyone that would like one. I caught your sermon Sunday. So anyway, come on up, Lori.
Thank you. Thanks. I'm going to give this back to you.
Okay.
They gave me my very own mic. It's dangerous. Thank you so much, Chris. It is always such a pleasure for me to come home because that's what I think of Stillwater. Stillwater is home for me, and it was it was 4 of the best years of my life. Not just because of college athletics, but because of the people and. The fans were not just cheering for us, they were invested in who we were as people. And frankly, probably why I passed statistics. People often think that my husband Colin and I met in law school, but we actually met here at Oklahoma State. We had one class together, Native American history, but I sat in the front row like a good kid, and he sat in the back like a hoodlum. And we even at one point were put in a small group together for class discussions. But timing is everything, and he says that I said something about having a home church, and he was like, oh, she's pretty, but not that pretty. And I thought, he has an earring, and I don't even have my ears pierced. No thanks. Great, fine, that was fine. I had another year of eligibility. He went down to Oklahoma City School of Law and started as a 1L. And I finished my time here at OSU. So when I finally made it a year later down to OCU Law School for 1L orientation, I was greeted by an aggressively friendly second year law student who seemed to know me, but I had no idea who he was. I was like, Collin, I don't know, is it Colin? I don't know. But he was very, very, very happy to see me. No worries though, I was a night student, he was a day student, second year. We didn't cross paths again, really for the whole first semester. But in the second semester, he started hanging around outside my contracts class to catch me and chat it up. And I say that there's just one letter difference between talking and stalking. And he was really, really, really on the line. But he eventually asked me out on a date, during which he had to remind me that we did indeed know each other. And over the course of our nearly 17-year marriage, he has never let me forget that. During that time, we have survived both of us passing the bar exam, me graduating seminary. We've survived 4 political campaigns, 6 years with Colin serving in the super minority in the legislature, and 12 years for me in ministry. And it turns out that politics and pastoring overlap quite a bit, primarily because it puts both of us in a front row seat to seeing the needs of our community. And need is something we are in no short supply of. You all know the statistics. The latest Kids Count annual report showed that Oklahoma has fallen 6 spots since 2022, putting us 46th in measures of economics, education, health, family, and community. The only measure in which Oklahoma ranked in the top half of states was its percentage of children living in households that spend more than 30% of their income on housing. And the only improvement in rankings was linked to Oklahoma Medicaid expansion, which lowered the number of children without health insurance in our state from 9% to 7%. Oklahoma's ACT scores rank second to last in the nation, and just 10% of Oklahoma's graduates met all 4 college readiness benchmarks in the last study. We rank 49th in education, and 1 in 5 Oklahoma children go hungry, even though we have said no to free lunches. A grand jury recently found $18 million in pandemic relief funds intended to help low-income students was mismanaged. Oklahoma's poverty rate is the nation's 6th highest, and poverty rates among racial demographics make clear that women and communities of color are overrepresented. Outside groups have spent at least $3.4 million trying to influence who is on our Supreme Court. Who is making decisions for us, outside groups? $3.4 million. A common response to this situation, at least when you're a pastor, is for people to hope for a miracle, that things are so bad that surely only divine intervention can get us out of the wilderness and into the proverbial promised land. At the very least, this is one explanation for folks insisting that the Bible be taught in public schools just like reading, writing, and arithmetic. I mean, the Bible is, after all, a book of signs and wonders filled with stories that are fantastical, per the Merriam-Webster dictionary. That is, the stories in it are without adherence to reality, so extreme as to challenge belief. The blind see, miracle. The lame walk, miracle. The sick are healed, miracle. And a great hungry multitude is fed with just 5 loaves and 2 fish, miracle. And those are the kind of miraculous results we want to experience here at home. Everything wrong made suddenly right. The problem with these Bible stories is that people think that a miracle is what made things right. So that's what we need, a miracle to turn things around here at home, something magical, a supernatural intervention to reverse the trends, pad the stats, and bring home an NBA championship. We need a miracle. But the truth is, the miracle is never the point of the story. Not in Scripture, and not in life. Most often, the thing that happens that changes the narrative, what turns things around, is leadership. Someone who responds to a need. Here's how it happens. Someone steps between the accused and the stone throwers and invites them to drop their weapons. Someone offers to share what they have, even if it's just a few fish and loaves of bread, and then suddenly everyone has enough. Someone refused to demand an eye for an eye or a tooth for a tooth, and the cycle of violence is broken. Someone refused to keep the peace and instead insisted on making peace. Someone put the interests of others above their own. Someone pointed towards freedom and justice. Someone pointed towards salvation. Someone led the way. And this is what Colin and I have seen in our work, not just need, but how needs are actually met, which is never by rhetoric or partisanship, but by leaders who put aside personal ambition and partisan gamesmanship in order to change the narrative. it is important to note that a leader is different than someone with authority. Not everyone who leads has authority, and not all who are in authority lead. Authority is about enforcement, rank, and license. But to lead is to move towards the fray, to shepherd, to walk with, to motivate, and more often than not, to instigate actual change. This is something that doesn't take a law degree or a master's of divinity degree to understand. Indeed, we have plenty of people in public office who have control of budgets and revenue and resources. There are plenty of people with the authority to improve health, economic, and educational outcomes for our state. We have a rainy day fund with over $1 billion in it, and people who are in authority to spend it. In theory, we have all the needs of our time. We don't need a miracle. We do seem, however, to be in short supply of leaders. We need leaders who are willing to play gracefully with ideas, who can put the interests of others above their own. We need leaders who know how to make an argument without being afraid they will be fact-checked. We need leaders who understand there is a difference between the principle of compromise and the compromise of principle. We need leaders who understand that a successful mediation is one in which no one gets everything they want. We need leaders willing to uphold the Constitution whether or not their team wins. We need leaders who will defend the separation of church and state because the government should not be in the business of making theological decisions for our families. We need leaders to ensure that justice is executed without prejudice to office or status or partisan affiliation. We need leaders who understand that while justice may be blind, it is not without heart. We need leaders who aren't beholden to partisan think tanks, political action committees, and dark money. We need leaders who understand that putting Bibles in every classroom won't feed those 1 in 5 hungry kids. We need leaders who will put we before me. We don't need a miracle. We need leaders. The need is great. But in this room, it is clear that many hands make light work. This is a group who knows what it takes to change the narrative. Rotarians understand how a group of people who have different ideas, who have different voter registrations, who don't agree on everything, can indeed set aside or shockingly work through those differences in order to meet the needs of the community. This is the definition of Rotary, isn't neighbors and friends who lead by volunteering skills and resources to solve issues and address community needs. Leaders who care about truth, fairness, building goodwill, deepening friendships, and who are worried about whether or not something is beneficial to all, not just a few. Friends, thank you for the work that you are already doing. We need you to not just stay the course, but to lean in. Our beloved and beleaguered state is counting on leaders like you. Thank you.
Would you take some questions? Where are microphones? Any questions are in the room?
All right, y'all, don't let me fall on my face all by myself. It's interesting you're talking about the miracles, and who helped provide the miracles? The little boy with the fish, the other people in there. And so when we pray, we are the answer to our prayers if we will just do it. Now I'm preaching for you. So anyway, thank you for coming. And I appreciate your insight.
That is exactly the point, though. Jesus never worked alone. The very first thing he did was go out and find some dock workers. And like literally, that is the first thing he did. He never did anything by himself. He was always inviting people to participate, which of course is different than coercing. Always extending an invitation and then sending out folks to do the work and ministry of meeting people's needs. Your questions also don't have anything to do with the Bible. It's also fine. Got one back there, I think.
So, Lori, obviously you're well versed and on top of what's happening in Oklahoma. Can you touch on maybe the two things that we're doing right that you really love about Oklahoma today?
One of the things that I think we are doing right is there is a strong awakening among folks about the importance of the separation of church and state. Oklahomans have always had a fierce sense of independence and commitment to self-direction. And I think that we are such a good-hearted and I think trusting people that for a long time when people said they were working in everyone's best interest, we just believed them. But as the evidence has mounted, people are becoming very clear that some of our freedom of choice and our freedom of conscience is being chipped away at. And I see a pretty significant movement to shore up the separation of church and state and make sure that theological decisions are being made in families and not by the government. Something else that I think that we are doing better at, I think we're on the cusp of. We kind of fumbled out of the gate on this whole medicinal marijuana, which is probably not something anyone thought I was going to say, but here we are. And it's becoming very clear that we're trying to move in some directions to fix that political fumble. That we are realizing that we cannot simply just have weed shops like 3 on every corner. And that we should probably get some of that revenue from those shops to fill our coffers, to at least contribute to the common good. And I think, that's happened over the course of decades with other issues, and I think we're working on catching up. It's not really touchy-feely stuff, but
So, Lori, curious. Colin's term of service is done now. What is it that keeps you and Colin in the state of Oklahoma?
people actually did think that we would leave after he stepped out of office. He decided not to run for re-election in 2022. We love this place. This is our home, and our families are here. But we also feel like we are proud products of Oklahoma. We are proud products of our public schools, and we have been raised to be voices of reason and leaders in our communities. And so for us to leave this place would be an abdication of our responsibility. And I think that might sound maybe a little bit old-fashioned, but we just have a deep commitment to the people who raised us, which we think of in a very broad way, a broad sense. We have responsibility to the people who raised us and to the people who are going to inherit things from us. Yeah. And besides, it would be no fun to live anywhere where there wasn't any challenge.
So, Lori, I'm praying that this presentation becomes an op-ed in the Oklahoma newspapers.
That's very kind of you.
All right, seeing nothing. Oh,
Oh,
we got-
we got a couple. Okay.
Sorry. So we get an email every week that tells us about the program, and in our email we learned that you've been recently named one of Oklahoma City's most influential faith leaders by the Oklahoman. Could you talk a little bit about that, and how is one recognized as such, and are there any responsibilities that come with such a, whether that's external or internal?
It was a lovely to be recognized among faith leaders in the metro area. And I hate to disappoint people, but we didn't have any notice about that other than, would you please come to a photo shoot? I don't actually know how. It's my understanding that there were submissions. The paper asked for submissions, and they do keep track of statistics for faith leaders who write for the Oklahoman. And when I mean write for the Oklahoman, they do not pay us at all, $0. They also obviously don't give to our churches, but apparently people are responsive to my monthly editorials in the Oklahoman, which does not mean that they're all positive. I do recommend that you never ever read the comment section. That is where civility goes to die. But that's
That's the same as the Stillwater community page.
Yes, like don't do that. That is part of your life you'll never get back. But as far as there are no official responsibilities other than to use that for good, to use it for good. I think what is so lovely is that many of us that were selected is that we know each other. We are in communication about things that are hard. Hey, my faith community is facing this. What have you done? Do you have an experience here? And I think that people they are unaware that clergy really lean on each other. And it's a really, really great gift. Yeah.
How much has your congregation grown since you became senior pastor?
That would be hard. I don't know. I can tell you that during COVID, during 2020, we joined 40 people that year, and we average about 20 new members a year. We do membership a little bit differently. You do not have to be a member of the church to take part in any kind of work or ministry of the congregation. Just if you're a member, then you can serve on our governing boards, which obviously no one wants to do, and vote at the annual meeting. It's just real talk. This is pastor real talk, okay, y'all? It's like it's fine. Y'all can go home and you can complain to your pastor that maybe it should be different, but. We do. I would say that how I measure that kind of growth is who is participating. Are more people participating in the ministries that we are offering? So one of the things that we've started over the last 4 years is a widows support group and a widowers support group. And those have actually brought back folks who lost a spouse and find it really difficult to come back to church, not because they're mad at anybody in the pews, but it's hard to go back to a place where you were once two and now you're one. Where do you sit? Who do you sit with? And those kind of affinity groups have helped remind people that they have a place where they belong, where people are looking for them to show up.
Are you thinking of running for office?
Never say never.
All right.
It was the plan. That's why I got a poli-sci degree and went to law school. We'll see.
And then, why do you think the $1 billion in the rainy day is being held up?
I think it's fun to say that we have more money in the coffers than we did. But what we know is how damaging that has been to our social services, to folks who are in the gap, not poor enough to get federal assistance, but are right on that line. And we all know people in that position. I grew up. My family was in that gap area. And so I think it's a nice slogan to be able to say, look how much I've saved the state, when that's not quite exactly what that rainy day fund is for.
What's a typical day for you?
Well, I have to write like a midterm paper every single week that's due on Sunday. So that requires, reading and research. I tell people it takes between 8 and 10 hours to write a sermon. My sermons are between 15 and 18 minutes long. And the shorter they are, the more time it takes. Anybody can talk for an hour. And then you kind of weave in the other commitments you've got. So hospital calls, pastoral care visits, that kind of thing. But also senior ministers looking out. You're always looking ahead. What's the next thing? So when we're in Advent, I'm already looking to Lent. When we're in Lent, I'm already looking ahead to Pentecost and ordinary time, those kinds of things. And also, as anyone who goes to a church knows, the building is a real drag. And they do not cover anything about church buildings in seminary, I will tell you, not one class. Not one class. But a part of my other commitment, and something that my congregation expects of me, is to do things like this, to go to speak at Rotaries, to be in front of our school board meetings, to go to the state capitol, to advocate when necessary, but also to serve on things like I'm on the maps for community subcommittee, so that gets my time and attention too.
Well, you've got a lot of free time. What do you do for hobbies or activities?
I have 7 nieces, and they are all delightful, and so I love to spend time with them. We have a dog named Teddy, who is a 70-pound pit bull who thinks he's a lap dog. I do I do a lot of thinking when I am running and walking and lifting and all of those things that former athletes pretend like we can still do. Things like that. And I do love to read. Yeah.
All right, Rachel, I'm sorry, let's try this again. Lori, we thank you so much for coming. I was looking at Rachel over here.